Now, this session will be moderated by Ms. Kazunobu Onogawa, the Director of CCET. If you could please, Mr. Onogawa. So, continuing with the resource efficiency discussion earlier, we will start with this session. Let me be brief. So earlier with resource efficiency, we had discussion around that, but when it comes to efficient use of resources, there are many different approaches. The discussion we had earlier was about upper stream, or the approach taken from the upper stream. So for instance, within the company, the manufacturing process is to be changed, or the consumption may be midstream, but the resource use patterns will be changed. So by doing that, resource efficiency as a whole will be improved. So that was the discussion we had earlier. This time, taking the opposite view, we will take a look at it from the downstream, so the so-called waste. Rather than looking at it as waste, perhaps we should review it as resources, and by pushing the use of waste, we can aim to improve the resource efficiency. So the theme is one and the same, resource efficiency as the theme, but there are different approaches from upstream and midstream, but this time we will be looking at resource efficiency from downstream perspective. And with that, we can improve the efficient use of resources. So the first speaker is from UNEP ICT. Mr. Keith Alverson will start his presentation.
Thank you, Onagawa-san. I very much enjoyed the morning plenary. A circular economy has no upstream, has no downstream. It's circular, right? So one of the speakers mentioned this dichotomy between circular economy and resource efficiency. And you know, the title of our session is from theory to practice. In fact, what we practice every day is not circular economy. Circular economy is maybe an aspirational goal, much like the Sustainable Development Goals, which were also mentioned this morning. Many of them realistically unachievable, but more setting a kind of aspiration for us. Resource efficiency, on the other hand, is what's in practice we're trying to do. And so in my presentation, I'm going to talk about just one waste stream, which is plastic, as an example, as a very tangible example, to back off a little bit from the theoretical discussions about circular economy and try and look at the practice. And I'd like to think, rather than thinking about from theory to practice, that we have some theory and we're putting it into practice, it's the other way around. I'm going to show you where we all have practices in waste management, and we'd like to bring those towards the theory of circular economy. So my name is Keith Alverson. I'm director of a United Nations Environment Center based here in Osaka, Japan, which carries out most of the work that UN Environment does in waste management. So our vision is really based on countries to help them identify and implement sustainable technological solutions to environmental challenges. What's showing on the screen there is World Environment Day. June this year, Prime Minister Modi and our Executive Director Eric Solheim released a report on single-use plastics. And the report was produced by my office, and I'm going to give you some highlights from that report right now. So first of all, one thing that's clearly not any part of any circular economy is an exponential growth curve. Exponential growth curves are by definition not part of a circular system. Plastics are on an exponential growth curve. They have been, as are many other products we use, from about 1950, where there was no plastic in the world, today, or 2015, where we had 300 million tons of plastic waste generated. There is no sign of this curve tailing off let alone moving towards circularity. This is plastic waste generated. The report goes through a number of policy suggestions, and of course the primary one is to improve waste management for plastic waste. Also, we talk about promoting alternatives to plastic as a way to phase out single-use plastics, educating consumers, because no matter what you have available, if consumers don't choose it, it's not going to be useful. Enabling voluntary reduction schemes and strategies, and of course, bans and levies. Bans and levies was really the driver of this report, having a look at plastic bans. You know, many of them had come into place last year, and how effective they are. But starting with the conclusions of the report, bans and levies were really pretty low down on our suggested activities for dealing with the plastic waste challenge. Rather, very standard, preventing the use of plastic, reducing its use, reusing plastic. This is a nice reusable glass cup, unlike the plastic laminated ones out front. Recycling, energy recovery, that's waste to energy, used a lot here in Japan, and of course landfill. This is just a map of, at the time when we wrote the report, so early this year, all of the different total or partial bans on plastics that we could find at the national, we looked a little at city as well, level, and economic instruments that were in place, and some combination of the two. Also private public sector agreements between certain companies and governments. You can see that the bans are concentrated very heavily in developing world, in particular Africa. There's a very good reason for that. Africa doesn't have good waste management systems. So they see the problem, which is plastic bags hanging in all the trees, floating in all the rivers, jamming up the gutters and all kinds of problems, and they just decide to ban the bags. And so to some extent that's dealing with a symptom rather than a holistically looking at the challenge in general. In this report, we look at different results of both the bans and the economic instruments. I'm not going to talk about all the results. I have copies of the report and a glossy policymakers summary, which I can hand out to people who are interested right after this session. Another thing that's growing exponentially, along with plastic waste, is the number of regulations being put in place to deal with it. So these are laws that we found. Number enacted per year is the graph, and you can see also an exponential rise. And indeed, after this report was published, we had at least another dozen announced bans around the world at city level. For example, straws in New York City. At country level, India announced some new ones right after the report was released by Prime Minister Modi. So this trend also continues. So how effective are these bans and levies? We looked at all the ones I showed on the map. The problem, the biggest number you see on the screen here is no data. So for the most part, we are unable to determine if the bans or the levies are effective or not, because we don't have sufficient data on the baseline amount of plastic use and on any change as a result of the ban. So at least half of the legislative actions we took account of in this report, you could say is highly uncertain if they're of use or not. 1/5, 20%, had no impact. We could determine, we had a pretty good baseline, and we could had enough data subsequent to the levy or ban to see that there was no impact. And 30%, yes, we saw a positive impact with some kind of reduction, although we were had difficulty quantifying that. The main issues that we found in terms of why things didn't work, one was lack of enforcement of bans, and one was lack of affordable alternatives. So I'm only supposed to speak for 5 minutes, so I'm going to stop there on that plastics report. As I say, I have copies here, and I'm happy to talk about it afterwards. I want to just end with a little bit of an example or a slide to show you what we're doing around the world. We help countries and cities with their waste management strategies. This map shows you where we're active, either in national and city level strategy development on waste management in blue, or implementing projects on the ground to assist with waste management, either separation or waste to energy or any other kind of direct tangible action. Those are shown in green. I'd like to thank all the funders of our center. Of course, Japan is a large one. We're based here, but also Germany, Norway, Sweden, and the European Commission, and many of the partners we work with around the world. Osaka City, where we're based, the International Solid Waste Association, the IGES Center for Cooperating with UN Environment on Environmental Technologies, and many others. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alverson. Mr. Alverson said in his presentation that, well, he took up the issue of the plastic waste. Of course, plastic is one of the themes of waste, so we need to, well, we have been using plastic because it's very convenient. However, the issue of plastic has been gaining a lot of attention around the world lately. Primarily, the plastic that is used on land goes into the oceans and towards the marine ecosystem. There have been a lot of adverse impacts. There are stories of fish dying because of plastic, and other than that, the plastics as chemicals, or the microplastics, which is less than 5 millimeters, would be more easily incorporated into the ecosystem and might have an impact on hormones and others. So there's that perspective as well. According to one outlook, in a while, the plastic in the ocean, or the amount of plastic in the ocean, will be heavier than the marine resources. So some point to that estimate. So from that perspective, Mr. Alverson talked about resource efficiency and waste. He specifically talked about plastic. So thank you very much for that. Moving on to Mr. Kumara of IGES. So there's this issue of resource efficiency and waste, and how are they truly linked? So he will talk around that topic. As I mentioned at the outset, when you think about resource efficiency, there's an approach from upstream and there's an approach from downstream. Tackling waste, the issue of waste, is one of the representative approaches of downstream-based approach. However, at the moment, as you look around the world, the issue of waste is a huge theme, but the biggest perspective of that issue is that there are lots of rubbish, and that is quite dirty or can cause hygienic issues, or the collection of garbage is not being done properly, so there's a societal aspect. In general, these issues are more common. So the perspective of waste from the perspective of using it and turning it back into resource, that's not often talked about. So Kumara will talk about the resource issues and the day-to-day issues of garbage, how these are linked and interrelated. So with that, Kumara, please.
I would like to focus my presentation because I work for IGS Center collaborating with UNEP on environmental technologies. We are supporting national and the local governments in developing waste management strategies. I am looking at these strategies as a means how the local and national governments can move in from the waste management thinking to resource management. I think that's very, very important for them. I want to quickly pass these things because in the early session is mostly discussed. I feel there is this issue like resource management and the waste management is something both sides of the coin. So we found that especially in the Asia Pacific region, so we are mostly is increasing the use of resources, and we have a lot of challenges because of that. You heard a lot of this information in the last session. At the same time, we found that this region is getting increase in the population growth and change of their lifestyle and the consumption patterns, and all these results in producing more waste in the region when compared to other regions. At the same time, the waste management, like Konagawa-san mentioned, is one of the huge challenge for the developing countries and their cities in the region. And we find a lot of this waste is in somewhere and can go to the landfill side, creating a lot of environmental and economic and the social issues. So in that sense, I feel we are now talking about SDGs, and before that we talked Millennium Development Goals. But further we go early, I found that we started discussing these things with the United Nations, the report for our common future, more with less. So I feel that is the most interesting thing for me to see. We had to think about how to make our lives with the less. So in that sense, as a waste management, we are thinking we need to be changed from this linear type of economy or the way of our waste management thinking to the more holistic or the waste management thinking, integrating the 3R activities. So reduce, reuse, and the recycle before we go into the landfill. Based on this, I feel that in our work with the countries and the cities, we found that it should be when we talk about this waste and the resources, we have to think about more life cycle or the integrated way of waste management, because you can see in this diagram. So if it is starting from the production and then finally we call about the waste, it's going for a whole process of the life cycle where a lot of stakeholders are involved. And also within the waste management part, also we have consumers, we have local governments. Today also we invited the different sectors here to discuss these issues. For they have their own responsibilities, they have their own way of handling this issue and the way of the contribution for these activities. So because of this complexity and because of this integrated or life cycle thinking, we are thinking the best way is the cities or the national governments to think about this waste and the resource in more strategic way rather than their daily routine activities in managing the waste. So for that they had to be changed their planning and the management style to move for some kind of a strategic way of thinking and the planning. This is very important because as we see, like they need to have some kind of their ideas or their drivers or the goals in the guiding principles to make them move in from this waste management to resource management thinking. But for that they need some kind of a policy directions and the implementations to move this change. So for that, we found that in our work with these the countries and the cities, they can take like three important policy directions. So First one is we saw is the regulations, and the Keith presentations also said something like the ban the plastic waste is one of the regulations they can get. But we thought in the normal waste management thinking, that kind of policies are not available. It is mostly thinking about how to collect the garbage and how to improve the waste collection or how to improve the final disposal. But they had to come up with some kind of a new regulations or the new enforcement to see how to reduce plastic or how to reduce food waste or how to introduce 3R policies, kind of a new thinking into their policies and the regulations. At the same time, we found that they're very important. In the last session also discussed the social involvement and the community participation and the civil society involvement. But we thought in the current waste management systems, what they're doing, they ask the people to separate garbage. So that is, they encourage the people in the current situation of the waste management. But if they want to move from the waste management to resource perspectives, they need to ask people to change their lifestyle and putting them in some kind of a sustainable way of living systems or the sufficiency concepts. At the same time, economic perspectives also. We saw that we are promoting public-private partnership for waste management, like putting some incinerator or putting some waste collection. It's important, but at the same time, we need to encourage some kind of economic instruments, how the private sector or the public or civil society is reducing their garbage through pay as you throw kind of a taxes or the landfill or incinerations, or subsidies for encouraging the people or the private sector, and EPR, extended producer responsibility type of mechanism. So these kind of a new thinking should be included in their policy and practice. So in that sense, CCET is working with UNEP ITC under the support of the government of Japan, funding supporting the, currently we are working with 3 countries, and today we have 2 of them, Myanmar, Cambodia, and the Maldives, and we also going to expand our work with India, Sri Lanka, and Indonesia. So I think after my presentations, you can hear some of their real experience in working in these countries for their activities. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to, well, based on what was just presented, developing countries, or those countries that are on their way to economic development, what is happening with waste? Regarding that point, we have examples of 2 countries. So the first example is from Maldives, very well known as a resort with blue oceans. It's a beautiful country, or you have that public image. So in a country like Maldives, it's basically a country of islands, of small islands to form one country. So in a country like that, the waste management issue, how is it being addressed? So on that point, Mr. Amir will present the case on Maldives. Mr. Amir is the Deputy Minister of Environment and Energy in Maldives. So, Mr. Amir, if you could please.
Thank you, Onagawa-san. Like Keith explained that we need to look at the reality of the situation, and from the Maldives perspective, I'm going to give you a bit on the ground reality of the Maldives and waste management. Maldives, in very brief, we are a country of 1,190 islands, and we're divided into 20 administrative atolls, about just over 400,000 population, and tourism and fisheries are the main economic activities in the country. We have a target of trying to reach 1.5 million tourist arrivals next year. Both tourism and fisheries sectors depend on the environment, and hence waste management is a big issue where improperly managed waste can hamper the economic development of the country. The entire economy of the Maldives depends on the environment. Like I said, and waste is the most visible environment threat we faced in waste generation. Per capita is about 1.2 kilograms per person per day in Male, and about 0.2 in the 0.8 in the rural areas. Whereas in the resorts, we find a massive 3.5 kilograms per guest night in the tourism sector. And population, the little over 340,000, 120 resorts in operation, with many more under construction at the moment. And tourism target is 1.5 million, like I said. This is one of the islands of the Maldives. History of waste management: when we started waste management progress in 2014, there was no legal framework, no policy, and no master plan. So we had to start from scratch. So at that point, there was just 1 or 2 staff within our Environment Ministry who was handling waste, and so not enough staff, no available national database. Open dumping and open burning was the order of the day when we started. Logistical issues due to small islands, like everything in the island needs to be contained within that island, so everything is that much more difficult in the Maldives. Regionalized waste management system is what we are thinking about. That we have divided the country into 7 regions for waste management, and each of the in each of these regions there will be about 35 to 40 islands, and each island will have its own waste management center. 1 regional facility for each region, and any waste left after being managed to be removed and transported to the regional center. So each of these islands will have their own regional waste management systems. Each island waste management center will be provided with composting facility and storage area for other waste. Hence, the locals are encouraged to do composting with all compostable waste, and facilities are provided to store about 3 to 4 months of other kinds of plastics and other non-bio waste within each of these systems. A transport system will be created where waste will be collected from each of these islands and then transported to the regional facility, where material recovery, recycling, and energy recovery incineration is applied, aiming to reduce final disposal of the waste. We started an initiative called Safarajya initiative. Safarajya literally means clean Maldives. This was launched in 2015, and this is a platform to develop and showcase all waste management related activities in the country. In 2015, we hosted the regional 3R forum for Asia and Pacific in the Maldives, and we had a special event, a pre-event in that regional forum, where 100 resorts of the Maldives got together and signed a declaration which we call Male 3R Declaration, aiming towards zero waste and more circular usage of resources in the resorts. The declaration calls for resorts working towards resource efficiency and minimalization of waste produced in the resorts. This is a shot of the signing ceremony happening. Safaraj, the Vice President of the Maldives, declared the day August 16 as the National 3R Day, and since then we have been having marking 3R Day, having different announcements, and we announced in 2016 an award called Safaraj 3R Award, aimed at resorts to promote waste reduction. This is a picture of the rewards. The first 3R awards was announced in 2017. 4 of the resorts applied. However, when we had a judging panel, the judges decided that not enough was done in any of these resorts to actually give an award. So this just highlights the kind of issues we face. New proposals were called for the current year, 2018, and this end of July will be the deadline for applications. Waste management, the regional perspective, like I told you, we have divided the country into 7 zones, and for due to available funding, we have combined zone 4 and 5 and zone 6 and 7 for waste management. Current status, Zone 1, we have a funding source available and works are ongoing. We are hoping to get this thing completed by around 2019, 2020. Zone 2, we started works about 5-6 years back with the help of World Bank assistance, and we had 44 islands and one regional center. The regional center is almost starting operational. This is the regional center of that zone, and we have started operation, but it's not fully operational at this time. We are hoping that towards end of the year, this zone will be fully operational. Zone 3 is the Greater Malay, which is the most challenging area, where we are working with ADB on $160 million project. They just very recently, their board decided to start phase 1 of this project. And Zone 4 and 5 is we have started a project with World Bank on $17 million, hopefully looking at completion by 2023. And the Zone 6 and 7, we have ongoing project with assistance from donor and in the government budget. So Zone 6 and 7 is also ongoing at the moment. So currently we have all these projects ongoing and all on the pipeline. Some more data, I'll focus more on Zone 6 and 7. This includes the southernmost 4 atolls, which is Garfalif, Garfdal, Navian and Seen atolls. 2 cities included in this zone, Addu city and Formula city, total living population of about 50,000 in that 4 atolls, a total of 23 inhabited islands in the 4 atolls, and 18 island waste management centers, 2 city waste management centers, and 1 regional center. Proposed state-of-the-art 40 ton per day incinerator and waste-to-energy facility. This facility is currently, the bid evaluations are going on, hoping to get it started towards the end of the year and operational hopefully within next year. Transport system to carry waste from islands to regional to the regional center. We are working with IGES to promote public participation in the waste management system in these 4 atolls and islands, developing consultative waste management plans for 18 islands and a regional waste management plan for Zone 6 and 7. We have had 2 regional waste management plan in seminars with the help of IGES, and plans are underway for a 3rd seminar, which hopefully we'll announce in end of July and hopefully have in August. And additional plans are underway for a pilot project of small grant assistance to some islands to develop public education programs to. So that is it from me. These are some photos of the regional seminars we had. Onagawa-san and Kumara are both giving session help with us. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Emil, thank you very much. Next, there's one more presentation on the current situation of the waste management, and from that perspective. Next, from Myanmar, I would like to call upon a speaker from the Environment Protection Ministry, Ms. Tida. So I would like to hear about the current situation of the waste management in Myanmar. Ms. Tida, please start.
I would like to present the status of waste management in Myanmar. Currently, we are managing 4 kinds of waste: municipal waste, industrial waste, medical waste, and liquid waste. So, firstly, let me talk about how we are managing municipal solid waste. To collect and dispose municipal solid waste, the responsibilities go to local municipal authorities. Since we are a developing country, waste management system is not good, and it depends highly on manual workers and non-specialized vehicles such as push carts, tri-bicycles, and dampers. Then, the collected municipal waste are transported to designated dumping sites. Here, I would like to point out one important thing, which is even in major cities of our country, waste treatment technologies are still in very early stages, and we have an urgent need for technology and financial assistance from international communities to manage municipal waste. And regarding industrial waste, we collect industrial waste from factories, but only on call basis, which means that only when factories call municipal authorities, we go to factories to collect municipal waste. The issue with industrial waste management is usually we dumped industrial waste in dumping sites without prior treatment. But right now, in order to have a proper waste management system, we are now establishing control landfill facilities in one of the special economic zones in Myanmar, namely Tilawa SEZ, which is jointly implemented with Myanmar and Japan. So thank you to Japan for helping us with industrial waste management system. And regarding medical waste management, we use 3 different color bags for separation of various waste. Among those medical waste, infectious waste are incinerated or burned in ceremony like sharp waste are burned underground in landfills. Other medical waste are treated as domestic waste. And another type of waste, liquid waste, actually it is about wastewater and sanitation, especially in central business districts of 3 major cities, Yangon, Naypyidaw, and Mandalay. We have conventional central wastewater and sewage collection and treatment system. But for the remaining areas of our country, we still need to improve liquid waste management system. Actually, responsibilities for waste management are shared by various departments and organizations in Myanmar. Monitoring and inspection are done by Environmental Conservation Department. Also, they are done by municipal authorities. Ministry of Industry is also involved, especially in industrial zone waste management. At the same time, civil society organizations, CSOs, are also actively participated in environmental awareness, raising problems such as group garbage collecting activities, peat plastic pollution activities. In Myanmar, in Yangon population is 6.2 million in 2018. The generation rate is 0.41 kilogram per capita per day. The household waste generated is 2,700 tons per day, and we have one waste to energy plant project. This Yangon waste to energy plant project implemented by Leapfrog program GCM supported by Japan government. Its Yangon waste to energy plant is operated on 1st April 2017. The incineration capacity is 16 tons per day. That's why in Yangon Yangon creates about 2,700 tons of garbage every day. That's why we need to build and we need to have waste to energy plants. And in Myanmar, we have a national solid waste strategy and action plan. Action plan is implemented and it is still drafting. This national solid waste strategy and action plan vision is sustainable, green, clean, and healthy environment towards a brighter future for Myanmar. We hope that national solid waste strategy and action plan will be will be implemented in 2015. We have to be, it will be zero waste, zero emission, and circular economy to achieve a greener, cleaner, and healthier environment in Myanmar. Thank you.
Ms. Tida, thank you very much for the presentation. And in Myanmar, we heard the example from Myanmar. In fact, Ms. Tida and Mr. Emil's presentation mentioned that our center is working on the cooperative projects in these two regions and to help build the strategies for the waste management and how to involve the citizens. And what's important here is how to get the citizens involved and also get interested in the issues of waste management. And in the case of Japan, when we look at the Japanese situation, the wastes are collected on certain days of the week regularly. And at the regular time on those days that the garbage collection trucks will come around and collect cleanly the garbage. And so and then these wastes are collected and treated so that it will be innocuous. And that is the reality that we have in Japan. But when you go outside of Japan, the garbage collection itself is not done in an effective manner in many countries. It is difficult to find good examples. And also the way the citizens present or bring the waste, the segregation is not done so extensively as in the case of Japan. And that is also the reality faced by many developing countries. However, some of the citizen countries in the developing region, some are very aware of the waste management, and the housewives gather together to produce compost, for instance, and they try to make their environment greener and nicer, and that they may grow flowers in the neighborhood and try to circulate a part of the waste. And there are many initiatives being taken. And many activities are underway in some parts of the developing countries and the cities. And in order to properly treat the waste, we have to also focus on the resource management and look at the waste management from the viewpoint of the resource management. And for that matter, the garbage segregation, waste segregation plays an important role. If you mix, then that's garbage. But if you segregate, it becomes resources. And that is something that is said and often. So in order to make this happen, how to encourage the citizens to participate in this whole movement is an important perspective. And Japan is no exception. And Japanese citizens take to do certain things to a certain degree without being instructed. For instance, the collection of the plastic bottles and glass bottles. And also there are some days that they may collect the kitchen garbage or the newspaper. And if we are to try to recirculate these segregated waste, we have to segregate these waste even into more different classifications. So there are some cities that they manage to reduce almost all of the waste by segregating successfully.
And what plays in an important role is the citizen participation. The citizen participation is the key. So from that perspective, we have a speaker representing an NGO from Kanagawa Prefecture of Japan, engaged in such a citizen participation activities. Ms. Morita will be presenting on the activities of a women-centered group and how they try to segregate and their collected waste and to make them into resources. So this is a typical example of how well the waste turns into resources. So Ms. Morita, please take the podium. Hello, everyone. My name is Morita from Green Japan 21. And so thank you very much for the invitation. So we call it We Shop. This is our charity shop. And so I would like to talk about our 20-year activity of the We Shop, Women's Empowerment Shop, here in the Kanagawa Prefecture. So we called the We 21 Japan, and about 20 years ago, 1998, it was started by the women in 40s who have completed the child rearing, and they contributed funds, and then they opened the first shop in Atsugi, city of Atsugi in Kanagawa. I'll elaborate on the shop later on. And so this is not the shop that purchases or procures the goods. It's the sells the donated goods from the citizens to use the money to support the overseas people in need. And so we have established the as an NPO, and 39 local NPOs manage 55 We Shops in Kanagawa, and so it is now spread across the prefecture of Kanagawa, and in each region, the members in each region independently acquire the position or the status as the NPOs, and we all share their missions to proceed with our activities. And this is how the charity shop works. And the shop. Shops are located in the high streets and also the close to the stations. And the citizens will donate unused goods to the shop. And the shop is run by volunteers to segregate the goods brought in by the citizens, such as the clothes and other goods in the backyard, and then they put the price tag and display the goods in the shop to sell the goods. And the proceed, part of the proceed is used to support our developing country friends outside of Japan, and also in order to confirm whether the money is spent properly, we would visit those target countries and also to collect information, and also we give feedback the information in these countries that we support to the volunteers. And we spend the money for better education and to support with the people in need and so forth. And now, why are we working on the reuse and recycling of the goods through this We 21 activities? As said, the resources. We need the 1.7 times worth of resources to support the population, and only 20% developed countries consume 80% of natural resources and energy. And that is the reality. And that is an unfair resource distribution. And also in Japan, we feel that the majority of the donation is women's garments, and of which 90% are made in mostly in China and Bangladesh. And so basically, these clothes are made using the resources outside of Japan. It is imported to Japan, and we would wear them brand new, and then we would throw them away without reusing them. And that's been regular practice in the past. And the recycling ratio in Japan is said to be only 20%. For these garments and clothes. And so there was a mention of the civic society. So as part of the civic society, we would like to change the lifestyle of this mass production and mass consumption. And so we need to basically face squarely with this reality to change the situation. And to be more specific, in the shop, half of the donated clothing can be sold in the shop, and but there are some leftovers which cannot be sold, and those will go to the recycling cycle on the right, and we give the unsold clothes to the fiber company for recycling of the fiber, and also we also sell the cutleries, and also the pots and the plates and the glasses, and those are given to the glass companies for recycling. And also we work with the company that makes power using the cooking oil, and also the mobile phones also given to the recycling company of the rare metals and the metal parts. And then these proceeds will be used for instance, in activities in the Philippines. And we try to recycle as much as we can. And I said that it's the citizens who volunteer to work in the shop. And 20 years ago, when we started our activities, when we wanted to open the recycle shop, there were so many people who were reluctant to wear the clothes worn by somebody else in the past. And the word recycle itself was widely accepted. But when it comes to the actual practice in recycling, the people still felt reluctant. And now that the 20 years have passed, and there are a number of recycle shops and reuse shops anywhere, and so it is now taken for granted to recycle and reuse the used clothes. And so in the past 20 years, more and more people started appreciating the recycling and reusing. And in Japan, there's a word mottainai, that is the internationally known word. And so if you, for instance, if you don't want and that gives an psychological incentive for the people who donate the unused clothes and the goods, and also establishment of the circulating system by establishing a local circulation system. Which cannot be attained only by the volunteers. And therefore, we have cooperated with the fiber company, so as we first of all, establish a system in which the truthful circulation will be enabled. And so I think that also led to a better understanding and appreciation. And also, as said, there are a number of NPOs independently established operating the WeShops, and this is a distributed, decentralized system that is close to the locality, and so that gives a better sense of usefulness in their own community, and the volunteers and the citizens alike can visualize the good work and the achievements done by individual shops. And also, the citizens can develop a sense of ownership in this initiative, and from the operation of the shop and the proceed of the shop and the utilization of the proceed, and members can discuss what they would like to do, and also they can also exert their own strength. For those who are social, they can tend to customers, and those who are better at logistics, they can work on it. And for instance, and so those have also resulted in the continued activities as well as the appreciation by the citizens. That is all from me. So presented on the what will be the key for successful circulation, resource circulation community from the perspective of citizens' activities. Thank you very much.
Morita-san, どうも。
Thank you very much, Ms. Morita. So we have heard from the presenters. Now, if those of you on the floor have any questions or opinions that you'd like to share with the panelists, we'll be happy to take that. Also, this session is webinar. In other words, this is being distributed around the world live. So not those that are in the venue, but if the participants of the webinar has any questions, we'll be happy to take them as well. So first, we'll start with those that are on the floor related to what was already presented. Do you have any opinions you'd like to share with us or any questions? Yes, please. Thank you very much. My name is Yazawa. I have a question to Ms. Morita. So you were involved in these wonderful activities for the 20 years, so I'd like to show my respect for that. Recently, there's a company called Mercari that was listed very recently, and their stock price was twice the initial offering price. So the sharing of different roles and responsibilities with a company like Mercari, what do you have in mind? If you could speak to that, that would be appreciated. Thank you very much. As you mentioned, the company Mercari, they are out there, very high profile. Young people would sell their clothes to them. So there's the true sense that the young people don't use our WeShop as much as they used to. So the kind of reuse at Mercari and the kind of reuse at our shop, what is the difference when I think about that? The biggest difference is that you have face-to-face communication in the shop. WeShop is just a shop, but it's not just a customer walking in and the clerk greeting the customer. It's a lot more to that. Those that come and shop and those volunteers that run the shops, they both live in the community, so they know each other oftentimes. So they can be engaged in day-to-day small talk, that such conversations take place often in a shop. So our shop is known, or some people would say that our shops are the kind of shops where you would walk in even though you don't intend to shop. So in that conversation, the issues of waste or the climate change, also where the money goes to, and we can talk about how the money, the proceeds will be used to support people in other countries. So this is an opportunity to provide information to get people more interested. So in that sense, face-to-face exchanges, we call it growing together or learning together. So that's something we'd like to consider more important going forward. Thank you very much for your answer. Yes, another person? My name is Hashimoto. I have a question to Ms. Tida from Myanmar.
So, in order to start the waste incineration from scratch, you need the 50 places or 500 places of the incineration plants across the country, and that would require a number of garbage collecting trucks. And if you are to do this in Myanmar, you will certainly require a lot of money. So how many incineration plants are to be installed in Myanmar? Just to get the sense of the scale of waste management system in your country.
In Myanmar, we have only one waste-to-energy plant. We need a lot of waste-to-energy plant, but that waste-to-energy plant is a lot of money. That waste-to-energy plant is a joint GCM project, and Myanmar government is at 8 million, and Ministry of Environment is at 8 million. That's why we need a lot of, but we cannot install the waste-to-energy plant and incineration plant.
So the plan does exist, but when we think about the actual construction cost, it is not that there's the concrete plan for exactly how many incineration plants will be built. So I believe in Southeast Asia, if you were to do the incineration plant, the facility cost is so high, it would be very difficult. So I think incineration plant construction has to be combined with the waste segregation. Otherwise, it will not work. So that as little as waste needs to be incinerated. That way, you will generate the less CO2. So do you think that direction is possible? So I would like to answer that question. As you said briefly earlier, the waste, if you mix the waste, it's waste. But then if you're quite thorough in segregating, then it can be circulated as waste. Rather the resources. And so, as you said, there are two steps. So the waste incineration, that can be combined with waste to energy, but that's sort of a last resort. And before incinerating the waste, there are many things you can do, such as separation, segregation, and also we don't have to always aim at the waste to power. There are many other final sort of disposal methods. And so I've been talking about this recently. Japan is, I think it's safe to say that it is an originating country of 3 R's: reuse, recycle and reduce, and also the waste segregation is very well underway in Japan. And also the Japanese waste management history and because of the limited land area available for the landfill, and so the main purpose is to reduce the volume of the waste. And so Japan has been utilizing this technology of incineration as main waste management process. And based on that, there's the local government subsidy system designed and implemented. And so that reduced the volume to be buried in the landfill. And also the Japanese waste incineration plant, the exhaust, for instance, is so clean. And that's a beautiful practice that is underway. But OECD issued a report, and OECD member countries account for maybe 38 countries, of which sorry, I think some noise from another room has just invaded. And I believe that there are 38 OECD member countries, and Japan is in the 8th place. And 8th place from the bottom. We're not the top 8. We're the bottom 8. Why? Because we segregate the waste, and we incinerate the waste in a very clean manner, and also we combine the incineration with the power generation. Then why are we at the bottom 8 in the OECD countries? So because in Japan, all the organic matters are incinerated, and organic matters must be considered as the resource and must be reused. So because Japan lacks this point of view to reuse the organic elements of the waste within the OECD statistics, we are one of the bottom 8 in our achievements for the waste treatment, and so or the waste management. So when we think about the waste management, it's not so incineration is not the only ultimate goal, as in the case of Myanmar. So there may be other ways, and in Japan, the compost is not the generally adopted concept, but in many Asian countries it is. But how well it is done is something that we need to look at. And another point, we need to build the as inexpensive as the landfill, and it's called a hygienic landfill. It's called, and so there are many other different types of landfill, and I don't hardly see any examples that is working well.
So in terms of the policy, or well, the operation may be done well in Japan, but if you leave the operation to developing country, there are only a very few cases where the facilities are successfully operated. If you have any successful cases, I'd like to know personally. So when you think about the waste management in developing countries, and especially if you think of that from resources perspective, maybe we shouldn't be fixated on specific incineration technologies. We should look at a broader technologies and how we can economically manage in a way that is not too labor intensive. What would be the options? One might be the option of choosing the right technologies. Another issue may be how to involve the people and citizens. So such soft approach and the choice of soft technologies, perhaps we can derive a solution. That's my personal view on this. Any other questions or anything else? In that case, based on the discussion that we have had so far at UNEP and UNEP ITC, the focus is on waste management and various activities are underway. So for one thing, in developing countries, there's the ideal way of waste management. Or in the case of Japan, of course, I would welcome comments on Japan as well. The evaluation of how the wastes are being treated, or perhaps advice on what can be done in Japan. I'd like to get some thoughts from Mr. Albertson, if you could comment on that.
Thank you. I guess the conclusion of my brief intervention is that there is no universal golden solution that we can all demonstrate somewhere and then scale up to everywhere. That paradigm is simply wrong. The solutions are always local, and there are components of these solutions that maybe reach across many different examples. Clearly, I think one of the most important ones is a well-educated population, or so a population that cares about waste management, is educated and understands the challenges, right? So that's something that is almost always going to be a component of your strategy. This said, we heard from both the Myanmar and Maldives the desire to install waste-to-energy plants. And that's based on reality on the ground. You know, a waste-energy plant is not part of a circular economy, right? It's using something twice. You take fossil fuels out of the ground, you make plastic or something out of it, and then you burn it, you make energy. So that's not circular, it's just simply using something 2 times before it becomes, waste. This said, you can't argue with the fact that there are huge waste management challenges in these places, and Japan is a good example of very effective incineration technologies that are clean, that are safe, that keep the environment relatively free from waste. But there are some unintended consequences of deploying those technologies. One of them, I guess if I make an analogy, in the United States, we often have traffic jams, and there's a lot of road, and it gets full of cars. And then planners think, well, how are we going to get rid of this traffic jam problem? Let's make the road bigger, wider, so more room in the road. And of course, one of the unintended consequences of that is everybody builds houses out at the end of the road, thinking, oh, this nice big road, I'm going to be able to commute more effectively. And the traffic volume goes up by even more than the road was widened, and the problem gets worse. And that same kind of unintended consequence can occur if you have a super efficient incinerator running, removing all the plastics. There's no longer any visible problem. People forget about it, or there's no incentive to reduce the use of plastics. So I think it's important to think about basically local conditions, think about reality. So don't just talk about the theory of circular economy all the time, but talk about the reality on the ground. And also try and learn lessons, both positive lessons, things that work well in terms of educating your population, in terms of separation. One of the speakers mentioned the importance of separation to even get incinerators to work in the first place efficiently. And also some of the negatives. So learn from the example that I think Onagawa-san was talking about in Japan. There is too much single-use plastic use in Japan. It's obvious. The other day, I bought a banana, which already comes with a nice wrapping called the peel, wrapped in a plastic bag. I mean, that's a ridiculous one banana in a plastic bag. So I think there are lessons that Japan can share with Maldives and Myanmar about incinerators and so forth, but there are also some lessons that Japan can learn from other countries about reducing its plastic use in the first place.
どうもありがとうございました。今お話の中でですね。
Thank you very much. In your comments, it was mentioned that when you think about waste management in developing countries, perhaps not limited to developing countries, industrialized countries as well, the appropriate or proper waste management, how that should exist, there's no uniform solution to that. So you have to look at individual cases, and you have to study them well, and you have to think about what would be best suited. So you have to have a soft approach in a sense. So that may be one answer. So that's a very important perspective, I think. By the way, those of you that are participating in this webinar, I understand that there's a question from the participants of the webinar. So please state from which country you're participating from.
Sure about the nationality, but this is from Mr. Fritz Nasil. The question is to Morita-san. The concept of We21 is similar with Waste Bank in Indonesia. However, one of the main problem is the unstable pricing from recycling companies. Do you have some solutions for this?
What price? Sorry?
However, one of the main problem is the unstable pricing.
Oh, I see. Unstable
from recycling
prices.
companies.
All right. Thank you. ちょっとその補足をしますとですね、
So let me provide some supplementary information. In countries like Indonesia, there's an effort called, or initiative called Waste Bank. So whether it's waste or resources, I'm not sure, but those are recovered, and individuals would have some kind of like a pocketbook or bank book, would have a record. And just like a bank account, you brought in this much plastic and therefore you get however many rupees. So such records will be accumulated, and next time you want to purchase something, you can use that money to make that purchase. So there is what's called Waste Bank. But the question was that what was collected by a company, or what is collected will be sold to a companies, but the price would fluctuate. So the question was on that, and whether with Morita-san's organization there was similar experience. Well, thank you very much for your question. In our group, mainly we collect clothing or garments being recycled. And as for this, to the fiber recycling company, we have been working with them, and we don't sell them at a price. Or in other words, the company does not pay anything for the clothes that they will take away. So there's no price. And as for mobile phones, the price fluctuating because of the changes in the market price, we don't have that experience. When we collect the mobile phones and when we sell them, the price at which those mobile phones will be sold, we may be taking a different approach when we recycle the metal. There are certain kinds of metals that have value in the market. There's the urban mine, cobalt, nickel, rare metals are considered to be rare resources, and we need to recycle them. You probably are familiar with these. But recycling of these metals, the price at the market is very low, so there is no price. Only gold, silver, and copper would have certain market prices, and there are fluctuations in prices of those metals. But rather than think of this as sort of like a business, we can think about why the prices fluctuate to begin with and the use of resources, we can share such information with the citizens in the community. So that's the way we think about that. So in unstable prices is not really a huge issue for our group. Thank you very much. So in principle, you're not selling goods at a price. You are transferring or giving them for free, in essence. So in line with the concept of mottainai, you look at the value that the goods would have, and that will be one of the motivations for the people to be involved. So you are not looking at the economic value, economic benefit. I see.
でですね、
So, with the discussion so far, Mr. Emil, Ms. Deer, or Mr. Kumara, are there anything that you would like to add or to make a comment on?
First thing, I just want to a little bit clarify the things that the Waste Bank and the V21. I feel a little bit different from the Waste Bank and the V21 because the Waste Bank is something like a material collection and selling because there is no some kind of a change of the products. But the V21, I feel it is not like a collect and selling. It is a space, like a location where the material is as a resource to even though they sell in their own shop, not giving to the someone. I think in that sense, a little bit different between the Waste Bank and the V21 activities. When it's come to the overall discussions, I also agree with the key points that the waste management is more local focus. So that's what I feel that our activities in working with the cities or the governments to making strategies is very important because they had to be think about their own situations and making their own plans based on their current situation and the future perspectives. So I think that's very important. They had to be think that kind of a strategic planning thinking to their waste management activities. And the second one, I feel in to the discussions also, we had to be anyhow, we think about to change our concern about the waste because currently we think about how to collect waste and how to transport and how to disposal. So in that sense, that's what the cities in the initial stage of the waste management, they are always thinking how to increase the number of trucks they have to collect the garbage. And also they are thinking how to improve the landfill to the incinerator because landfill is open, so can be seen. So it's look like they are still thinking about that very narrow perspective of the waste. So how to manage the waste. So, but our discussions today also is a little bit broader. What we're thinking about how they can think about. This is as not the issue. This is as an opportunity. They work on to increase this resource management thinking. So we are working on in that direction in supporting the national and the local governments. For that, as my presentation also I said like their current thinking about the regulations should be changed. They don't need to focus only for the waste related regulations. They need to include some kind of resource efficient regulations into their policy and the regulations. And also when I see the V21 experience also, how the civil society is working. So that's also should be changed because in the waste management, we are asking people to the separation and keep their garbage in the outside the house. That kind of things is good for waste management because proper separation and collection, it's help for the cities to collect the garbage. But when it's come to the resource perspectives, we need the citizens to little bit further going in doing some kind of activities like V20 is doing, thinking about how they are waste, or they work with the communities to manage their resources in their local communities. So that's kind of a change should be happen. And the economic perspectives also, I feel, it need to change from the waste perspectives. Like our private sector is always thinking how to improve the incinerator or how to improve the waste collection. So and how to move for the more resource efficiency things. And one thing is very, very important in the developing countries, because they are very much influenced for the landfill, because it is free. Nobody charges the landfills. So they put all their garbage and bring somewhere in their lands. So nobody asking environmental pollution things or some taxes for the lands. But when it's come to the tax for the land, it's very important. People had to play not only the waste collection, but also for treatment and the operation. So that kind of I feel traditional way of waste management to move in for resource management need some radical changes. So that can be happen by the cities or the governments working with all the partners, stakeholders to come to the board and discuss their waste management strategies. So in that sense, I think the activities that the CCTC is doing with these governments is something we are moving these cities or national governments to their thinking on the waste management to resource efficiency perspectives.
Okay. 小原さんどうもありがとうございました。アミドさん。
Thank you very much. Mr. Emil, if you have any comments.
Excuse me. Yeah, I have two comments. One on the economic perspective of waste management. The experience from the Maldives is when we started talking about waste management, in my presentation I mentioned that we started the process in 2014. There were this issue whether how sustainable, economically sustainable waste management in the Maldives can be. We live in small islands, very small populations. In any one of these islands, there's no way any kind of waste stream can approach economic sustainability in this. But the fact we had to look into was that, as I mentioned in my presentation, our economy depended on our environment. Our economy is our tourism, our economy is our fisheries. Both of these depended on our environment being clean and waste-free. So not attending waste management was in fact seen to be more expensive than whatever expenses we had to spend on waste management. So again, like Keith mentioned, the different perspectives from different places. I'm not sure whether this kind of perspective can be brought from anybody. And the other thing is, like, if we talk about small islands, again, if we take an example of, let's say just one stream of waste, let's say electronic e-waste. In an island where 300 to 400 or maximum 800 people living in an island, what kind of stream of e-waste can it generate over an year? So this kind of perspectives are very different when we talk about different, when we talk about taking back plastic bottles and these things. Again, in an island, how can this be done? We also are trying to introduce the concept of extended producer responsibility. But in the Maldives, everything is imported. Only fish is the only thing produced. So how do we hit importers with EPR? That it becomes that much more challenging, because there is no producers. There are no producers in the country. Everything is imported. So how do we hit the importers with EPR and its so again, my point is that everything is very different depending on the local situation and depending on the perspectives of that particular nation. Things can be very different. Like we mentioned, the expense, economic expense of going for incineration. Like in this situation, I'm sure Mr. Onagawa and Kumara would have seen the ground reality in the Maldives, where we have few choices left for us if we are to protect our environment and then protect our economy which is based on our environment. So that's my point. Thank you.
アミルさんどうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Mr. Amil. So the small islands, is a very specific environment, and the Maldives rely on the tourism as one aspect, and also the fishery as main industries. On the other hand, because Maldives comprises of the small islands, they don't produce these products, and they import, and so the producer's responsibility is not within the islands, and then so the Pacific. It applies to all the Pacific small island nations, and the same concept also applies to the Caribbean small island nations as well when we look at it from that perspective. So there are many different approaches that we need to consider, but coming up with the one workable answer is very difficult. What about Ms. Tida? Do you have anything you would like to share at this point? Or any comment you would like to give?
We have to try to transmission of the waste management to resource management. Now we are trying to promote two fundamental and important things: environmental awareness and technology development. First thing, to promote environmental awareness, we are now doing awareness raising program by means of every possible communication. Second thing, in technology development. For promoting technology development, honestly, we learn from other countries and share technology, know how amend our people. And another important thing for transmission from waste management to resource management is to establish a code or legislation and policy which promotes private sector involvement and also cooperation among government agencies like cooperation among environmental conservation departments, municipal organizations, and Ministry of Industry. Also cooperation between national and local government. Another important thing for transmission for waste management to resource management is public behavior, especially the citizen daily life pattern, such as the waste sorting and separation. Even in major cities of Myanmar, our people still need to get familiar with waste sorting and separation, which are important for transmission from waste management to resource management. Also, we need to promote economic feasibility for transmission process, which means that government needs to find possible ways for a good economic facility. That is all my comments for transmission from waste management to resource management.
はい、ティダさんありがとうございました。おそらくもうそろそろ時間になりました。
Thank you, Ms. Tida. I think we are approaching the end of the session, so I'd like to try to summarize or conclude. What was common among comments made by participants or the panelists was that the most important factor is how to foster participation from the citizens. And there are various capacities like understanding, awareness, and the behavior of citizens. But the question is how to raise the capacity of those that are involved. There's education, that's one. Another approach may be networking. So through these initiatives, the citizens' capacity and the awareness can be raised, and try to promote the participation of citizens. Such perspective was pointed out as an important common factor As for the second point, there are various comments and opinions stated. Waste management is not about applying certain patterns to everything. You have to look at the local conditions and the realities. And there are certain means that would be applicable. That will be the basic approach of waste management. Through these, in the end, it might lead to resource efficiency or recovering resources, the concept of circular economy. These initiatives will eventually lead to these concepts. And lastly, just outside, we are airing the video that we created. And in Mandalay, the second biggest city in Myanmar, it's sort of like the Kyoto of Myanmar, the old city. So Mandalay is the second largest after Yangon, and they are working on the strategy on waste management. So there's a video that is being played, and one of the participants asked for that video, wanted to get that video. So some kind of arrangement was made, as I understand. But when you have the question, or if you're interested in how the waste management is done in developing countries, I would encourage you to see that video. Perhaps that will be of use to you. Of course, you can download that video from our center's website, and you can watch that video that way. So I just wanted to mention that lastly. So over an hour and a half, we looked at resource efficiency from the downstream. The resource efficiency, or the discussion that would really nail this issue, would be difficult to have, but different approaches of waste management in developing countries, the realities, we were able to share some information, I hope. So lastly, I'd like to thank the 5 panelists, so please give them a big round of applause to show appreciation. And once again, thank you for the participation in the session to all of you.
After decades of isolation, in the last few years, Myanmar has thrown its door wide open to the world. With a growing population, vast natural resources, and an influx of foreign investment, the country is experiencing economic development unprecedented in its history. It is now the fastest growing economy in Southeast Asia. Attracted by the new jobs and opportunities offered in cities, people are moving from the countryside to urban centers like Mandalay. In the last 30 years, this city has more than doubled its population, now counting more than 1.2 million people. But while Mandalay keeps expanding, its trash collection and waste management services have not been able to keep up. There is much more waste generated than the city can cope with. Adding to this problem, there is the new consumerist lifestyle of a burgeoning middle class with an appetite for products that generate waste. New industries and hospitals also produce hazardous waste that the city is not prepared to deal with. To get a clear idea of the extent of this problem and its possible solutions, let's follow Mandalay's waste as it makes its way from purchase to disposal. Like many people in Mandalay, Daw Ai Kyaing is a migrant from Myanmar's countryside. She moved to the city 20 years ago, around the year 2000. Today, she is shopping at the market, where everything gets wrapped in plastic bags. Once at her home, Do Ai Kyaing takes the vegetables and meat out of the plastic bags they came in and prepares to cook a meal. In Myanmar, there is no trash separation, so kitchen refuse and plastic bags are thrown in the garbage together, mixing all kinds of waste material from the house. As the garbage truck passes through Mandalay's streets, people bring out their waste and hand it to the city's cleansing department trash collectors. Again, all trash gets mixed together. Even when people separate materials like plastic bottles, they end up mixed up with everything else in the truck. While downtown areas have daily trash collection, in townships like the one where Do Ai Kyaing lives, trash is only collected every other day. Further from the city center, trash collection becomes even more sparse. The fact is that the fleet of trash trucks is not enough. Many of them are old and beat up and cannot even make the journey all the way to the trash dump. There are large waste stations where trash is transferred from trucks and other smaller vehicles to large and sturdy containers pulled by larger trucks. Trash is then taken to the Mandalay landfill, where the truck's load is weighed to keep a record of the amount of waste received every day.
We use only collection, transportation, and final disposal side, and open dumping.
Waste is emptied onto an area of the landfill, where dozens of people, many of them children, pick through the trash to recover valuable materials like aluminium cans, pet bottles, and even food to be sold to fish and pig farms. The pickers work without any safety equipment, risking their health. The remaining trash, composed mainly of food scraps and plastics, is then compacted by bulldozers and covered with soil. In this way, this dump has been steadily growing, and now it is a huge mountain of trash that can be seen from a distance. Its base is leaking noxious fluids, and it emanates methane and other gases that are not only damaging to human health, but also contribute to climate change. There is also the danger of fire. In early 2018, the landfill of Yangon, Myanmar's largest city, caught on fire and burned uncontrollably for days. For years, Mandalay officials did not have a clear strategy to deal with the mounting waste management problems, and effective long-term solutions seemed out of their reach. Premakumara Dikela is an expert in waste management from IGES, the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies. He is working with Mandalay officials to solve the waste crisis in the city. As part of their project, they want to get people in Mandalay to reduce the amount of waste they produce by separating their trash and recycling.
This is one of the pilot community where the IGS and Mandalay City Development Committee is working on waste separation at source. People used to throw their garbage, mixed garbage to the open areas or the city trucks to collect. But now the women's group started separation waste.
Recyclables like aluminium cans, plastic bottles, newspapers and cardboard get collected under the stairs of the building and then are sold to a buyer that visits a few times a month. With the money, they pay for improvements to their public areas, so the benefits of recycling are very clear to all of them.
And each block have a women's group who are coordinating this waste management program. What they're doing is they educate people to separate garbage into like a recyclable and other waste.
Involving community groups like these women and other stakeholders is an important part of the solution and can be very useful for improving waste management. The buyers of recyclables take their materials to workshops like this one. Although low-tech, the recycling industry is organized and employs a lot of people.
So we are now in one of the recycling buyers who is buying the recyclable materials coming from the pilot communities.
ဒီကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီကောလုပ်ငန်းအဟောင်းလုပ်ငန်းကိုလုပ်တာပေါ့လေနော်ဆိုင်သေးလေးတွေကနေပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့စီကိုလာသွင်းတာပေါ့လေနော်လာပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ကသူတို့စီကနေဝယ်ပြီးတော့ဒီဘက်မှာအကုန်လုံးပြန်ခွဲတာပေါ့လေနော်သူကလည်းဟုတ်
He is receiving 3 tons per day and he have 32 staff in doing this business work. It's look like he is happy with the increase in the raw material coming to his plant with the waste separation started from the household level.
Plastics are sorted by color, washed, and then ground up by machine to create this material that is exported. Entrepreneurial recyclers like Ko U understand very well that waste is a valuable resource. He turns plastic waste into money every day.
There are many this kind of locations now growing in the city.
The recycling industry in Mandalay is already quite developed, with shops that recycle all kinds of materials. By involving these skilled recyclers in the waste management project and connecting them with the women's groups recycling materials at home, Mandalay City is drawing on the valuable capacities already present to improve waste management. These activities are not just isolated tactics, they are part of a comprehensive waste management strategy that has taken Mandalay City years to develop with the support of IGIS and UN Environment. The waste management strategy was developed with the participation of a wide variety of stakeholders, including strong support from Mandalay's mayor and the cleansing department.
Because it is successful because of the involvement or participation of the multiple stakeholders. We have already adopted Mandalay City Waste Management Strategies and Action Plan starting from the 2017 to up to the 2030.
The strategy includes comprehensive plans to deal with all waste streams and includes provisions for integrating people now working in the informal sector, providing stability and economic and health benefits to this otherwise vulnerable group. As solutions require the participation and change of behavior of all citizens, raising awareness on the new ways to deal with waste is very important. That's why the city has put up billboards explaining how to deal with waste. And kids are beginning to learn about waste management in school. To further reduce the amount of waste generated, Prema Kumarat is now advising city officials and stakeholders how they can make useful compost from organic waste.
So if you see the Mandalay and the Yangon waste composition, you can see the more than 60% is still organic waste. Work plans or strategies, they identify if we can reduce organic waste from compost, they can reduce waste going to landfill.
Based on their experience developing Mandalay's waste management strategy, IGIS and UN Environment are now working with the national government to create a strategy for the whole country.
Today we are coming to the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources in Myanmar to discuss with the Director General about our National Waste Management Strategy and Action Plan to get his view for the final version and to see how we can move forward in its official adaptation.
This strategy is a linkage with our national environmental policy strategy, with our Myanmar climate change policy strategy, and green economy policy framework. These all of guiding framework are driving to achieve sustainable development goals, which adopt in 2015. So our framework are very much focusing 2030 development agenda. We need to continue our cooperation with the IGS and UN environment for implementation part under the guidance of this strategy framework.
While Myanmar is already on a path towards solving its problems, waste management is an increasingly critical global issue.
The problem of our waste is as big and as important for the global environment as climate change. It's a big systemic problem that's impacting our environment and it's impacting our own health. That's why we have to address it globally.
IGES and its partners continue their quest to improve waste management in countries around the world, supporting communities in keeping a clean environment while fully benefiting from their valuable resources.